Be good.
Mezcla, puñet.
Well, hello there. Welcome to the program. It's your pal Andrew bringing you this Monkey Tooth podcast. And if you're listening, obviously ignore the next several sentences I'm going to say. But if you're not listening and you're watching this on YouTube, this is as weird for me as I imagine it might be for you. But I gotta be on camera today because my guest is on camera, and it's only fair. It'd be kind of weird if some disembodied voice was just talking to you with a picture of my dog, which, now that I think about it, is probably a better idea. Shit. Anyway, look, I got a guest today. His name is Norman Greenbaum. You might know him from such hits as Spirit in the Sky. He is a friend of a friend and slowly becoming, I think, my friend. He is a tremendous sweetheart of a man. I met him through my friend and mentor and benefactor and collaborator and employer, Erik Jacobsen. Erik was a producer back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And one of his many really successful acts was Norman Greenbaum. They made Spirit in the Sky what it is, and it's made their lives what they are today. And I found out that Norman and his lovely partner, Benita, were doing a podcast, and that's what I do. So I've, of course, inserted myself into their world and told them if they needed any help, I would be glad to, and I got the job. I'm hired. I am now the producer of their podcast, which is called Coffee in the Morn with Norm, and it is super sweet and kind of silly and an interesting insight into a man and his music and his partner and his life and this whole catalog of tunes and stories from back in the day. I mean, if you can imagine, Norman wrote his first kind of hit, The Eggplant That Ate Chicago. We'll talk about that in a minute, in like 1967, 66, 67. So he's seen some shit, this gentleman, and he's going to tell you a little bit about it today in the episode. I'm grateful to be in his orbit and to have the opportunity to collaborate with him on a creative project. It's an honor. Speaking of honors, the day after we recorded the episode that you're about to watch, he brought me with him and Benita to this really interesting group, a gathering. It was like a concert and a benefit, and just a hangout at this really interesting place in Petaluma. The group is called Artista, and they started as like a gang of musicians and promoters and poster and album cover artists, roadies, musicians. Did I say musicians already? Anyway, a bunch of really interesting people all got together to sort of, party, play music, and look after one another. And they're still doing it. 50 plus years on, they're still doing it, which is really cool. And I got to go. Because of Norman. I was the plus one to he and Benita's duo. And man, it was definitely my kind of thing. I got to spend the entire day with all these really super cool, interesting people who 70 plus years old, and just chat them up, ask them questions, get some footage, and hang around. I met Linda LaFlame, who was in It's a Beautiful Day. I was so unbelievably charmed by her. What a total sweetheart. An interesting life and beautiful outlook. And Lester Chambers, I don't know if you know the Chambers brothers. Man, what an iconic, incredible singer. I saw him perform. It was really, really great. I got to see some great music. I got to watch Norman and Benita perform Spirit in the Sky, which was really cool. It was just a very enriching day, and I'm super duper grateful. And I'm putting together an episode for Norman's podcast, which is called Coffee in the Morn with Norm. You can find it on YouTube for the time being. Hopefully soon it will be everywhere. That's at Norman Greenbaum Music on YouTube, all one word. And yeah, we'll put together a little episode about that. That Artista group is something else. They're really interesting. They did a benefit the previous year when Linda LaFlame's husband passed away. He was also a musician and well-known guy. David LaFlame. And then this year they were helping out Jerry Miller's surviving family. Jerry Miller started Moby Grape, was a fabulous guitar player, really talented guy. And I got to meet his son and his ex-wife and sort of talk to them a little bit about Jerry. It was really sweet. And I like what Artista's doing. I'm glad those sort of things exist. I don't know what else I need to tell you other than I'm super excited about this episode, and I'm sorry for the camera. And I just have the one camera. I pointed it just straight at Norman. It's not the two of us, just Norman in his yard, in his element, wearing a really funny shirt. I don't know if you can see what it says. It says, I had my patience tested, and there's like a kind of grumpy cat. And then in the bottom it says it came back negative. Norman's kind of known for wearing clever, funny shirts. So I'm glad he wore one on the podcast. Anyhow, until next time, I hope you and the people you know and love are doing fun and interesting things. We'll see you next time. And hopefully it won't be too much camera work. Adios. All right. Norman, thank you, man, for agreeing to do this.
You're welcome. No.
Yeah, here in your house, in your lovely backyard, a gorgeous weekend in Northern California.
It's a great day, except for this fly in front of me. And,
it's a fan.
Well, politicians have got on them on their nose, giving a speech. They can't go like that.
No, they got to keep it cool. Well, feel free to swat away, man. I won't judge you if you kill a fly on the podcast.
I'll stare him down.
Stare him down. Yeah. Let him know who's boss. I am, for one, I'm just a fan. I like your music, and I like your approach. You and I were talking just a little bit earlier about like storytelling songs, and you're a natural storyteller, which is a thing I've always appreciated. And that approach of telling a story with a song, is that something everybody can do well? Did you grow up in like a storytelling family were your parents good storytellers, or where'd that come from?
Well, they had stories of the old country, of course, which I couldn't relate to much. They all came from Eastern Europe, and on both sides, Russia and Poland and there. Ukraine, one of my grandfathers was from Ukraine. But they all came here in the early 1900s, like before 12.
Wow.
And but they were still oppressed.
Yeah.
And needed to get away if at all possible.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I believe that the Russians took a lot of stuff away from people that had things.
Funny how that
value,
happens. Yeah.
And left them with nothing. But the world's always been like that. There's always been an aggressive country or empire. They'd call it an empire back then, and it was an empire. It wasn't even a country, was it? I didn't call them countries.
I mean, yeah, that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
Countries without any, empire with no stuff is just a country, and country with a bunch of stuff.
Well, I did write a bunch of songs about the country and living on a ranch. And I liked those songs a lot, and they were real descriptive of farm life, which was so different. I mean, I learned it along the way.
Yeah.
And being brought up near Boston, one weekend during the summer, we'd go out to the country and, stop somewhere and get some fruit and stuff. And that was it. Where I lived, we'd go towards New Hampshire, and someone in the family had a summer place, and it was near a pond, but I hated it because I hate mosquitoes.
Yeah.
And
you're not alone, man. You're not alone.
Yeah, I know. I mean, years later, my son lives in Anchorage, and we go up there, but there's some places in the summer that'll drive you crazy. You've been there, so you know, man, those mosquitoes just make you nuts. And they're bigger.
They're bigger, and they get in these swarms like I've never seen anywhere else. I mean, just by the thousands. Yeah.
But they have no snakes.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
take the good with the bad.
Yeah. No snakes and no snails.
No snails in Alaska.
I think he said no snails or no slugs, no snakes.
Interesting. Wow.
I
learned something I did not expect
I
to
know
sit
about
down
the
with you
snakes
today.
for sure, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes you get mixed up with all these. How much can you retain?
Especially about snails. You know, you only got so much bandwidth in your brain for snail facts.
Well, we have snails here. I mean, when I moved here to this place, I left all my plants behind. I gave them away because there were so many snails, and a bunch came anyway. There's not so many now. Who knows why?
Yeah, they're fewer and fewer. You know, when I first moved out to Sonoma County, I worked at a nursery, like a plant nursery, over in Pingrove. And they were telling me about the snails. They were like snails and this specific kind of toad that came with the French, and they would eat them. It freaked everybody out. The French that were living here were eating the toads and eating the snails, and now they're just wild and they're free and they're all over the place.
Well, I never did it and never thought I wanted to.
Not for you.
I mean, I gave it a thought that it would be interesting
Yeah.
to take it to a certain level,
Yeah.
you know, and then dump them. Or, I mean, I wouldn't feel bad about dumping a bunch of snails.
A bunch of snails.
But they say, you know, is a snail a snail? People love eating them.
I mean, I'll eat just
I
about
can't
anything.
even watch people eat them.
I'll eat anything. I'm one of those. But sorry for the tangent. So you grew up in a sort of metropolitan setting.
Right.
No farming.
With a family that wasn't very musical.
No music. I was going to ask. Nobody.
Nor had inclination to write.
Really?
They were just hardworking people, you know, a tailor.
Did they come from the country? Were they country people, or had they been?
Well, they came from another country.
Right.
But they didn't like to talk about the other country.
Really?
But once, on one side, my grandfather was a house painter. And on the other side, they were bakers.
Okay.
So they definitely came here as bakers and stayed in that business.
It's a good business. It's early hours. Boy, it's
terrible
early
hours.
The
You know,
worst.
I'd go and help my father on the weekends, and couldn't go out.
No.
Couldn't go out and party.
No.
That's for sure.
No, you got to be up at the crack of dawn or go to work at night.
Before that,
Yeah.
my.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be 5 o'clock already. It was late. But he left, you know, fresh bread
Yeah, that doesn't.
at the doorstep every day. And boy, that can spoil you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing like fresh bread.
When it's still warm, come on.
Oh, yeah, and it was
The
wonderful.
best.
And,
The best.
you know, I mean, I got to go to where they made it and everything. And, you know, I see them.
A Polish bakery?
It was wholesale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So bakers and painters, no writers, no musicians, no creatives of any kind, no painters, or like a.
he wasn't
no
an
artists.
artist.
Yeah.
He painted houses. I would suppose he got that job coming here. Like I said, they never like to talk about the past, except food.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And,
Food was a big thing.
and a lot of your songs have been about food.
Yeah, I guess
maybe
that's
there's
where
a-
it came from.
There's a through line.
Yeah, starting with the Eggplant That Ate Chicago.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it's still a crack up.
Yeah.
Especially when you go to the grocery store and the fly
This
that
fly is
bit
the fly
Norman
that.
during an interview.
So we're talking about food, man.
Going to a grocery store and seeing all these perfect little eggplants, you know, perfect setup, and I pick one out. This is the one.
This is the guy.
Yeah, this is the one that ate Chicago. Don't buy that one.
So when did you know? Did you start writing little stories as a kid, or?
Yeah, I knew in junior high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. What was this?
I wrote the stories before I learned how to do it with music. I taught myself how to play in high school, but in junior high, I didn't call it poetry. I called it stories, and I learned along the way how to rhyme better and develop the story and not be too repetitive.
Who were you listening to as a kid? Did you have like writers and singers and people that you liked?
Well, when I when I got to high school, it was Shel Silverstein was one. I remember that name, and see, Little Houses. See, who wrote that song? Going blank.
Which
on
one?
It.
Little houses.
It was Pete Seeger.
Oh,
Little
that
Houses on the
that song.
Hillside.
Yeah,
Made
Pete
out
Seeger.
of ticky tacky.
Yes.
There's a red one
Yeah.
and a blue one, and they all look just the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah,
And
that's a good
that
tune.
was so good.
Yeah.
I mean, that was life.
Yes.
Then you go out and you see it.
Yeah.
Like people were moving out from the city.
Mm-hmm.
Jobs got better,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what they did. Little houses, and
That
now
is a
they're
good
really
tune.
little.
Well, that's a sticky too, and that'll get in your head, and that
Yeah,
melody
yeah,
will da 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 da
Well,
da.
that's never gone away with me.
Yeah.
So,
what an interesting.
but I was taken a bit by that, and I realized that that's what I liked
Mm-hmm.
More than the love song.
Sure.
I liked my sister was older than me, so she had those old 78s, and she liked like Frank Sinatra and Eddie
Yeah.
Fisher and all those kind of people. And Bud, Tony Bennett, even back then, and so many more. They had stories, and some were pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea.
That's a great song.
Yeah, so
Great song.
there was a lot of great songs there. I was friends with Jim Kweskin of the Jim Kweskin Jug Band, and he told me some real interesting stories about making records that I had never known before, where when they figured out how to make a record, they could only do it on one side. They didn't have the capability to do it on both sides, the pressing, I guess what you would call it. And also, they had to have one machine recording. So not many people bought records, so they had 50 machines in this huge room, and each would record, and that was their 50 copies.
Wow.
And then when they all sold out, they'd go back in and
record
do
again?
another 50. I go, God, that's fascinating.
That's
I
wild.
don't know. And then, of course, they, figured out how to do two sides and reproduce and put them in the cardboard
Right. Those old
sleeves. And
Yeah.
then the artwork
Yeah.
started and came along to the psychedelic era.
Yeah.
I was around.
Indeed, you were.
And
I want to get there too, but I'm still really curious about your childhood. I mean, did you get yourself your first guitar, or did your folks get it for you, or?
I had a job after school. I worked at a pharmacy. There was also an ice cream parlor in the front. So an interesting place. You could go in, and there were the comic books, and there was the soda fountain and ice cream. And they didn't have Coca-Cola already made. They had Coke syrup, cola syrup.
Yeah.
And so if someone wanted a cola, you take a glass and you press and it come out with the portion, and then you'd add seltzer water.
Right.
It was kind of interesting too. I liked that job, with nothing going on. I read comic books and stuff, and then it was near Boston. Then in the middle, they had greeting cards. So women coming in, they would stop, for milkshake, and buy a greeting card, and some kind of perfume or something. And in the back were a pharmacy, but also they sold pints of booze.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but on
shop.
Saturday night they had to shut it down at 8:00. They had blue laws, so that was kind of interesting to grow up there.
Yeah,
and of course they had the mafia and all that. But downtown Boston was cool. But yeah, all of that was descriptive to me because home was boring. We didn't have television at first, and then there was 1, 2, 3 stations, and some of the news programs for 15 minutes. And that was it. People listened to the radio and read a newspaper, but that was kind of boring. But once you get to go out and see all these other things, it's very picturesque.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what got me into it. That I wanted to write about things like that.
Interesting.
And then I discovered I had an affinity to do the music with it. And I was never a great musician, but I could come up with melodies pretty good. And so that started that. And in high school, yes, I bought my own guitar.
Yeah, that's cool.
At a pawn shop.
Do you still have it?
For 50. Oh, no.
Long gone.
It was like a Stella.
Yeah.
A $15 Stella.
Yeah.
But, it was way cool.
They're $500 on eBay now.
Are they?
Yeah.
No kidding.
I have one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're pretty funky. But, affordable.
Yeah.
And you got to learn somewhere. And
did you teach yourself, or did someone show you the chords?
Well, at first I just, bought a book and learned chords.
Wow.
And then I learned from other people some better changes and that. So, but in high school, I really developed myself and into wanting to do that. I mean, I went to college at Boston University for regular college stuff. Didn't care for much.
What'd you study? What were you in college for?
Pardon me?
What was your major? What'd you study in college?
Writing.
Okay. It fits.
Yeah. So, yeah. But I don't know. I didn't like to get up and do speeches and things. But I didn't mind getting up, I hung out at coffee houses where folk singers came from, Greenwich Village and the college circuit. And there were hardly any bands ever. There was, Joan Baez and lots of other people started there, even Bob Dylan. I remember seeing Bob Dylan there. And that's cool.
Very cool.
I got a job at one, I was a doorman.
Oh, nice.
So, you become a doorman, you see everything for free.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. And so then I knew, boy, I can do this. And so I started doing it, at open mics, and I got a few jobs, and then and I'd listen to the radio a lot. I listened to Delta blues and country music and Wolfman Jack.
Yeah.
And they were there on these powerful stations, and you could get them in Boston at night. There weren't a lot of stations back then. And so I heard country music from Wheeling, West Virginia, and it was all great. So it gave me a good background. And I had friends that had moved to Hollywood and said, oh, they came home for a visit. They said, oh, you got to come out here. You know, it's Hollywood. It's great. It's warm. No more shoveling snow. And for, you know, to be in a band, there's just plenty of people. You'll get discovered if you're any good. So that's what I did in 1964.
1964.
Yeah, and that got it all started to record. Well, I met people who also wanted to start a band. You know, you hang out and the coffee houses there, and people would bring their guitars and play. Hey, hi, my name's Norman. Man, want to like do a little thing together? And you know, he started to develop friendships and things, and so I met a bunch of people, and they wanted to be in a jug band also.
Mm-hmm.
And but we didn't call it a jug band; we called it
Junk
a
band.
junk band.
Yeah.
And it was called Dr. West's Medicine Show and Junk Band.
Yeah. What made you pick junk instead of jug?
Well, because we didn't have a drummer, and so he could beat on bongos and junk. So he would have a collection of metal pieces.
That's fantastic.
And, you know, he'd keep a beat with these things, whatever he felt like bringing in. We did have the washed-up bass player and the gal, and maybe we played guitars, and we were the lead singers.
Mm-hmm.
And, but it was the beginning of I guess, the hippie era, where bands were having light shows and all that. It was in L.A. I mean, it came down to L.A. It really started in San Francisco. So we had a friend who could do that. So we had a light show, and we painted our faces.
Yeah.
We're goofy.
Yeah.
And wanted to have a good time. But we never did the same face, which was interesting. It was long before Kiss.
Yeah.
But every appearance would be different. How we felt that day, and
did you guys paint each other's faces, or did you have someone?
A little bit. We'd add to it, but you know, we'd sit there and
yeah,
look in the mirror.
Yeah. Now, had you, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but had you tried psychedelics at that point? Had you, or did that come later?
Oh yeah. I mean, you had to come up with this stuff
somewhere.
Okay. Oh yeah, and we got to paint our face.
Yes. Yeah, so when was your first trip? Do you remember it at all?
It was in '65. Yeah.
In Hollywood, or in the hills somewhere, or on the beach, or?
Well, it was at one of the people's houses, and it was okay. I'd do it once in a while and try to write songs, and I do remember one time, though, I went to Santa Monica Beach on July 4th, and they started shooting fireworks, and I thought we were being invaded by Russia. But I came out of it a lot. I didn't do it enough to worry.
Sure.
And I wanted to succeed, not to fall apart. But yeah, we did a little of that. And everybody smoked a little pot back then too. But the pot was even better because I could just sit there all day and come up with ideas.
Yeah.
And so I liked that. And so I'd write these songs, and we got an audition, and they had never seen anything like it. I mean, dressed weird and painted faces and a washed-up bass and junk. You know,
junk, yeah.
Singing a song called The Eggplant That Ate Chicago. And we got signed on the spot.
That's great.
I mean, he had us in the recording studio like in 2 weeks, and there it went.
I was thinking about it yesterday. I was talking to my wife about having this conversation with you. I was excited about it. And I was just looking at the stats of that particular song when it came out. Was it 67?
It came out in 66, I believe.
66. Like the number, it hit the charts at like 52, number 52, which is like That's awfully good to just come out there, your first shot. So I was like, well, what's the number 52 right now? Where are we? And you have to scroll through. I didn't even know where to look to find I had to find the Billboard Top 100, scroll down
now?
for right now. Yeah.
Okay.
So today it's like a country song, which I thought was surprising. It's kind of
country,
it's a modern country tune. It's number 50.
Country has become rock and roll.
Yeah. It's right up there in the pop charts.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
The crossover, they call it.
Yeah. But so you hit the pop charts with Literal Junk and a psychedelic.
Oh, and then we had a skits and also.
Really, in between tunes, you would do skits?
Yeah, because we were a medicine show,
right?
I was Dr. West,
yeah.
So I would have all these little gizmos that I made, and go, yes, sir, ladies and gentlemen, come right on up, a new Dr. West.
Nice. So you're writing the stories, an overarching story, and then telling little story songs.
Well, some of the stories had a song, and they're all connected, and I thought I was, I don't know, sort of, I was part comedian, I guess. I mean, the part of me that was comedian had to be there for the Eggplant That Ate Chicago.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah,
some pot or not. But there was one particular song called. It was just Dr. West Medicines. And I got a package of Sherman cigarettes back then and threw cigarettes away and got these little vials and filled them up with colored water and whatever. And I'd show it. I go, Dr. West, now in the 6-pack. I give the spiel. And then at the very end, I'd go, yes, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. West's latest medicine, Dr. West suppositories. You know what you can do with them. Got a good laugh.
I bet.
And, I thought, we had a following, and we played the folk circuit in L.A. and Southern California, Orange County and everything, along with a lot of other people that were breaking in and starting to make it, like Jackson Brown and the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, who I hung out with and knew as pals.
That's
because
cool.
we're all starting.
Yeah.
And we all played the same clubs. And so it was an interesting time. And that's how I started recording and doing this. But it reached an end where management wanted me to not paint face and not be too silly, because Hollywood and TV shows were still, kind
of square.
Yeah. And they didn't like the...
didn't know what to do with it yet.
They didn't like the suppository joke. So they told me to ditch it, but I refused. And like we were talking about Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
You got to get rid of that. It's okay. Okay. And I did it anyway. But I got in trouble.
You got busted? Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was too difficult to go against it. And things come to an end. You take it as far as you can. And I realized I had come to the end. I don't think I could have developed a character any better. I mean, I wasn't a real comedian and, didn't have a whole bunch of material. And so I said, well, all the rock bands were starting to happen then in 1968. And so I said, I got to do this. So got an electric guitar and looked around for some players and started just a Norman Greenbaum band because I wanted control. And we did all my songs. And we played, same thing with the circuit. And one night we're playing at Troubadour, and in walked Erik Jacobsen.
Tall drink of water.
Yeah, out of nowhere. Hi, I'm Erik Jacobsen. I produce The Love and Spoonful. which I'm going, oh, this is real.
Yeah.
know, this is not
That's a
just
real
some
guy.
Hi, I'm Tony. I'm a producer.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and we struck up a conversation and a friendship, and he had moved his business as a producer to San Francisco. And he says, keep writing for a little bit and come on up. We'll hang out and go over the songs. I can put, a studio session together and do all that. And that's how that all started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a moment of serendipity.
It was. I mean, out of nowhere. Leading up to that point, I had met lots of people.
I'm sure, yeah.
Full of bull and,
Yeah.
more talk than
Yes.
reality. And that's the time when a lot of bands got took
Yeah.
because we're all 22 years old, and what did we know about contracts and publishing, and you're going to owe them all this money for the sessions, and you'd never get to see the books and all that stuff, and they give you a royalty, which is hardly anything, and you don't know. So a lot of people got took. I did with Dr. West. But with Erik, it was all different.
Well, he'd learned his lesson in New York.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was a good combo, the two of you connecting.
Yeah, and we really hit it off. And it was so legitimate that both of us felt comfortable that we could work together without all those tensions and distrust.
Right.
So, yeah, and I'd go up to visit Erik, and we'd go over things, and eventually he said, okay, we're going to do it. So he put together some musicians he knew who were studio musicians, and I wound up moving up here from Hollywood to stay with him a little bit, and then got my own place in Petaluma, and recorded.
And made magic. I mean, it's just pure magic.
There weren't a lot of recording studios back then.
No. Yeah, where did you record it?
It was called West.
Sorry, it was in the city?
Yeah, it was on Bush Street. Something recorders.
Yeah. I mean, it's
yeah.
fine.
Anyway.
Somebody knows.
It's tall condos now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But, it was one of the going studios.
Yeah.
And I actually got a pretty good sound there.
Oh, boy, you did.
Yeah, and Erik was a genius. He just knew how to work with arrangements and all that. And we all worked with each other, but just to separate things and wonderful.
Yeah, I really like Erik. He's become kind of a mentor and almost a father figure type of guy in my life. Yeah. And he's told me a lot of stories about you guys in the studio and how all this kind of came together. So I've been really looking forward to getting your side of the story, because you guys both clearly love one another. I mean, you got a cool,
absolutely,
cool
one of my
relationship.
best friendships in my life.
Yeah.
And all these years, still, we're both still here.
Yeah,
not that far from each other, and get to see each other, and that's a wonderful thing in life.
Yeah,
to have a friend and a coworker and a mentor, and go back and talk about, hey, remember that time when we did this, and but then listen back, and I don't know, it just still sounds so good.
Yeah.
And of course, Spirit in the Sky was a challenge because there was never a song like that at the time for the top 40.
Yeah. So, yeah, that heavy riff, the crazy fuzz tone, the backup singers, I mean, the Stovalls really added a layer to that tune that is so cool. I mean, I don't know. It like makes your
I'd
the
written
hair
the
stand up.
words before the music. When I called up Erik, I had a friend that put the fuzz box in the Telecaster,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, Erik, I got a riff.
That's
And,
cool. Yeah, it's got a Delta blues, but heavy. Taking that Delta
it
blues
was
riff.
based on the Delta blues, which many artists have used over the years. It wasn't really, some people say, oh, you stole it. But there's only so many notes and so many beats.
Yeah.
And I never felt I stole it, especially since I started it with my own riff with the crazy guitar, the fuzzbox. They call it the industrial fuzzbox. And in it, I mean, honestly, it sends to this day shivers. And I look back and I play it now and I go, wow, man.
Yeah.
So many years. And we don't even say we could have done that better.
No.
It was about as good as
Yeah, I think you
we
nailed
could
it.
have done it. But it was great. We're going to talk about how I came about to write a song like that other than the music. And, I listened to a lot of stuff. I mean, I was into it. I was looking to find my niche, something I could do, felt comfortable in. And so I listened to everything. And country music was one, and there was Porter Wagoner doing his gospel song and his show. Turns out that was one of his most liked songs, Spirit in the Sky. As I talked to his daughter, unfortunately, he had passed. And she said, oh boy, I wish, one of your trips if I knew you were coming to Nashville and you knew I was Porter's daughter, I'd get you over here.
Oh, man.
I love it beyond belief. And so I go, I got to keep that in my mind, a gospel song that tells a story, not just loving Jesus.
Right.
It needed more story. And he had one where the gold miner with his mule hadn't been to church in who knows how long, and decided for some reason to go. And he trekked all the way, down there, got to Old Church. There's a note on the door. The preacher is on vacation. I go, now that's a story.
Yeah.
His dream shattered, trekking down with his mule. I got to keep that in my head. And then, of course, the American Indians believed their God was the spirit in the sky. And I saw many pictures of paintings of American Indians smoking the peace pipe around the teepee, and something in the sky was the spirit in the sky. And I know that indigenous people and people in general, they didn't know weather reports. They knew the weather was going to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, if the moon turned black, in that one day every 20 years, I mean, they must have been scared.
Scared out of their minds, yeah.
But I don't know, and I just put all those things together. And I had no music for it. And then one day I said, this is it. As crazy as it's going to be, it's going to be unforgettable with this music, which I had been developing for years.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody plays that lick
Sure.
once they learn how to play guitar. It's like fill in when you got nothing to do. Yeah. And for your own brain.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, I'll go with Jesus, and no offense, and it'll fit, and it'll be a story, and it'll make sense, and I did it, It was 4 minutes long, and so we had a little uphill battle with the suits, as they say.
It took a while for it to be a hit, right? Because it was out for how long before it really?
Well, they didn't put it out right away. They were scared about 4 minutes, and they were scared about, but they wanted us. I mean, they let me do it to call the album that, and it was all there. But they thought, something, that sounded more like the Association would be better.
Right.
And it wasn't. Funny enough, we had just gone to see Three Dog Night last night, and they gave the same story when they were signed, and the record company said, "No, we're going to choose which song we put out," and it was called something about nobody.
Nothing.
And he says, and that's how it's sold
Yeah.
to nobody. But they got better. And
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
But yeah, and the record companies had a lot of influence over their acts.
Yeah. And so what did they put out a single for Spirit in the Sky? Did they put that out as a single or?
Oh, yeah. So the first couple did not make it, and then they put one up. It was rather near Christmas. So in those days, the story came down to me that you had to expect that it wasn't going to do too much, the couple weeks before and the week after. But it was out, and AM radio weren't afraid to play it for 4 minutes long, and it got a lot of airplay. A lot.
On the AM frequency.
AM.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that started it all. And in those days, the promotion men communicated with the radio stations right then and there. I don't think there wasn't payola with this one. I know that, but some other stuff there were. But I know that this was so legit. That's what made it great. Also, it was all legit. There were no arguments. Everybody cared. I was just trying to find that right.
Mm-hmm.
And so the story to me was the promo man called up the biggest AM station down there and says, "He's still going to play it, big time next week?" He says, "No, it started to fall off. The requests kind of fell off. We're thinking of like dropping it." He says, "Don't you dare. I got this order. It's big, and I'm not kidding you." He says, "You got to. You will not regret it." And so they kept it. And in like 2-3 weeks, it was number one.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy.
Wild.
I mean, crazy good.
Yeah, crazy good.
Crazy good.
Quite good. Yeah, yeah. And what did you put that on? Was it Columbia or who?
Oh, well, it was Warner
Karma
Brothers.
Sutra?
It was on
Warner
Reprise.
Reprise. Okay. Yeah.
And they were an interesting label, and they were signing all the brand new artists back then. And they had quite a roster.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they used to put out these promo LPs with one song from their, from many of their acts, and they give them away. They were called schlagers.
Schlagers.
I still have a little collection.
Oh,
of
that's cool.
schlagers. And I loved working with them. I got to know a lot of them, and I was always treated well, and it was great until I put out my next song.
Was it Mo Austin? Was
Mo Austin is
I hear he was
a wonderful person.
Yeah, that's what I've heard from Erik and from other people. I've heard him talk about what a wonderful guy he was.
We're having smoothies today.
Yes, we are.
From Benita's Smoothie Stand.
She is gifted at the smoothie bar. Man.
And
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I've been making you talk too much. I drank all my
drinking that on coffee. Well, anyway, yeah. So we were on tour. We did well, and I had to come back and get right on it. In those days, I don't think you wasted time. You came out with another one as quick as possible. And I wasn't used to working that fast. And I think looking back, it was a little rushed. And it didn't have the signature song.
What was the next record?
Well, it's called Back Home Again.
Back Home Again? Okay.
Yeah. And, already my ex, my wife at the time, she was on her own. She was from Pittsburgh. Met her in Greenwich Village.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, she had never been in the country. She says, and, there was that trend back then.
Back to the land.
Back to the land trend. And so that's what she wanted to do. And so that first place we got some goats and some chickens, and that's how started that. And so Back Home Again I was glad to get off the road. I mean, that was like the tour, and tours wear you out.
Oh, I bet. You toured the world, right? I mean, you went to Europe,
Well, we went to Europe. It was a different kind of tour in Europe.
Yeah.
But, we were, the song was basically number one everywhere. Everywhere. Poland, Japan, everywhere. And, who knew?
Yeah.
You know how it goes. I mean, you want to do it. And then you get that far. You learn with yourself. You take advice and you go play, as scared as you might be to stand on stage. A lot of people played the same old folk songs. Not me. I mean, I just had my own thing. And people liked it. So then you move, you do this, that, you meet people, you form a band. You rehearse. The next, get a manager. So get a manager. You get your bookings. You play in clubs. You get your record contract. You've made it. But if you weren't taken advantage of and all the other stuff, you'd wind up being a one-hit wonder. I thought I was way beyond that because thanks to Erik, everything sounded damn good.
Damn good.
And I go, I'm way beyond these people. I just hope they can go with my quirks. And we were talking about the eggplant. I had a thing for writing songs about food, but it wasn't that I wanted to. It just came to me, looking at eggplants, I don't know. You watch those stupid movies from back then, and that thing comes from outer space.
Right.
And the tomatoes that rolled around afterwards, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm at a grocery store, and someone, is checking out and puts up 5-pound canned ham last. And I don't know, I just looked at it, I go, geez, that thing's big. I had never had one.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just looked at her out of nowhere. When are you going to buy me a canned ham? And I said, what? What? Where's what? I said, I got to write a song on that one. That one's just too good.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm not trying to be, loving myself and think I'm too great. but it was just easy, you know.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it? I had to come up with something stupid, but it isn't stupid. What do you do with stuff? To me, it was bling. The
Yeah.
canned ham, I don't think anybody realized it. It was a piece of bling.
Right.
You know, when you gonna satisfy me? You know, put it in your pocket, fry it nice and brown. And that's what you do with it anyway. It rhymed, it was catchy, but it wasn't Spirit in the Sky. And that was led to my demise. And of course, they started calling me the one-hit wonder, and I kind of, after that, I made another album. And that was really about the country.
Yeah, that was. That's a
And,
beautiful record.
It was long before Americana.
Mm-hmm.
Music was called. I mean, it didn't exist, and it was an acoustic album, and we had great players, and you know we had a washed-up bass player from Jim Queskin's band, and we had Ry Cooder and other known people.
Yeah.
And again, Erik just meticulous, but everybody loved it when it was finished. Man, but where was it going to go? And I mean, I thought it was a better album than the other two, as far as the whole album goes. Yeah. It was easy listening. It was good stories. It was great playing.
Great players, man. Such
and
good.
Simple,
mm-hmm.
But I thought enjoyable.
Yeah.
It wasn't raucous.
Right.
And you weren't going to tell you, turn that down. Your mom and pop would probably say, turn it up.
Oh, that's a nice song.
I like that. So that kind of dealt me. It wasn't so great, and we were dropped by Warner Brothers Reprise. I myself, there's not much more we could do together with Erik. And I moved back to LA to try to put together something different. And I got divorced in the middle of it all, which is neither here nor there. But I was living in LA again had different managers. They were known. They all had like one or two good acts. And we made demos, and it came down to, I don't know, that's not Spirit in the Sky, and of course management has to go, of course not, it's better.
Right, right.
And I go, we'll have a meeting. So it was passed on by people, and I made a really good demo. And my manager, who was from England, and he managed. He knew everybody, from Ringo to the Who to Eric Clapton, and brought in this great demo. Well, I thought it was great. And they said, "Okay, we'll give you a shot. Come back in Monday." And so he comes back on Monday, and they say, "We changed our mind." He goes, "Had a deal on Friday." He says, "Yeah, but we looked more into his past, and he won't leave the farm." The manager goes, "What?"
He's right here.
He lives 6 blocks from here. Been here 3 years. Really? Well, they can't look bad. They pass, and at that time, I ran out of energy. What can I do that's any better? And again, pretty damn good recording. I produced it.
Oh, yeah?
And so that was that, and I had to go find other things to do with myself. I moved back up here and became a cook and a kitchen manager and all that for a few years. And then Erik calls one day and he says, "Guess what? of putting our song in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I go, no kidding. That changed everything. And, wow. I was in a movie that got in a commercial, another movie. It just kept going. So to this day, I think between movies and commercials, it's 100 placements, which is crazy good for us, but just crazy in general for a song to come back like that and just keep going. And now, since people are passing and they want it at their funerals, and it gets a whole bunch of other attention, the words, the story, and
what a gift!
Grateful,
it was interesting to me. You were telling me stories about it, and then a friend of mine told me about Hunter Thompson. It was his favorite song, and when they were filming Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Hunter Thompson was on set, and he would go hang out in his trailer and listen to Spirit in the Sky over and over and over and over again. I mean, he just had it kind of on repeat, and then had that song playing as they blasted his ashes out of a cannon on his property at his funeral, which is
at his funeral,
yeah, such a cool thing.
Yeah, Johnny Depp had something to do with it, and I had known about him liking the song from a documentary that they did on him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard about this, and I go, wow, isn't that something? And so...
did you know him? Did you get to know him when you were living up here?
No.
So I know he and Erik knew each other. I guess Erik's buddy, the attorney, Mike, and Hunter were good buddies, but you never got to meet him?
No, I didn't. I wish I would have. Never came around. But I wanted to meet Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Because Johnny Depp played him in the movie. And it was in the movie, and it was there. And and when he died, they shot his ashes up in the air and played it.
It's so cool.
I know, how cool is that?
What a wild use.
Yeah. And so by chance, Johnny Depp is playing guitar with Alice Cooper, calling themselves the Hollywood Vampires.
Yeah.
And they were playing down here at the and Joe Perry from Aerosmith. And so they were playing down at the college here. And so we got tickets, and we'd met Alice Cooper a few times. So, we knew his manager and everything. And so he said, really like to go backstage, Yeah, sure. So we did, and
cool.
There's Johnny Depp, Hi, Norman Greenbaum.
That's so cool.
He likes me. So, it was great. And then, we talked to him a while. He was quite a character and very nice with us. And Benita, too. And she wound up being kissed by him. So I'll live with that's with her. Yeah. But so then it was time to talk to Joe Perry, and he says, how'd you do that lick?
Yeah, man. Every guitar player wants to know.
Well, it was the Fuzzbox. Plus I finger picked it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely finger picking, huh?
And a lot of players just can't do the finger picking, and so they do the straight picking, and you can't
get that
you
back.
can't elongate it because it's quirky. But quirks are good.
Who was playing that other lick in it, like the sort of echo delay?
That was the guitar player, Russell Dashiell, who recorded a bunch of songs with us.
Yeah.
And he again, how did he do that? He just did it with his knob.
Yeah, just turning the knob.
Yeah. We didn't really, we didn't have anything fancy.
Yeah.
But back then, recording was simple. The machines are like this big. And the tape was like this big. Nothing, digital, of course.
Yeah.
And if you needed to splice something, you needed one-sided shaving blade. And
yeah. I picture Erik sitting over a reel-to-reel tape, just cutting and taping and cutting and taping.
Oh, yeah, and everybody did it, and that was producing. And, yeah, but...
well, you made magic, man. I love that tune, and I love your music. Like I said, I like the storytelling aspect, and you always had great players, and but you still perform. You'll go out and sing.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be doing that next week, right? Or the week after next in Nashville?
Yeah, I'm not sure where yet. The record company always has a couple places that I do it. And around here, I'll be around.
Yeah. I love that, man. I love that you're still getting out and
we
going to
can't
see
play
music.
it long enough.
Yeah.
Well, locally, we did a festival, and we did 23 minutes.
Jeez. Everybody got a couple solos.
Everybody got solos, and no one got tired of it. It's just amazing. It is amazing. But yeah, that's the story of my life. And
you've been
with
through
its up and downs, but
yeah,
that's good.
Well, you're a hell of a guy. I was aware of you just because of the music, and we moved out here, and my wife was working at the hospital, Santa Rosa Memorial.
Yes.
And got to see you in a very bad state after a car accident.
Right.
You survived that,
Yeah.
which is not easy.
No, that was actually very terrible.
I can't even imagine. Did you at any point feel like I'm not going to make it?
I did. I was getting antsy because I didn't know where I was, and they had me in an induced coma.
Really?
And I'd come out of it for them to play with me.
Yeah.
But sort of hallucinations. I didn't know where I was, but I didn't think I was going to die, but it bothered me. Here's real life. You want to know where you are.
Yeah,
you know, that's why there's signs, in case you forget. L.A., 50 miles. Where are you, Norman? 50 miles from L.A. But I got through it, one thing at a time and came out of it and went to rehab and they pieced me back together.
Yeah, they did.
How
do you feel now? Are you feeling?
Well, those things never quite go away. So, and just age in general, you start to get worn out. Life is interesting in that way because we don't think about it, but we've been standing on our feet for 80 years. I mean, that...
And 80's coming up.
Itself is a miracle.
You're 79 now, or are you?
Oh, I'm 82 in a couple months.
You're 82 in a couple months? All right.
I mean, it's a lot of standing.
That's a lot of years, man.
Yeah.
That's twice as many as I got. Almost. A little less. But still, that's a lot of years, man.
It's a lot of years.
Yeah.
And, so, people have to get replacement parts.
Yeah.
Like a car,
Well, they don't build them like they used to. That's for sure, man. You guys, your generation, you guys are tough, man. You're a tough lot.
We were talking about it before, growing up, and no one ever brought up you might be allergic to gluten.
Right.
We couldn't wait to eat bread, especially my family, because there was every day.
The great bakers, yeah.
And no one ever, I don't know, there were hardly an allergy. There weren't many murders. In my town, I probably had 40,000 people. It's just, it was an okay place. It's an okay place to grow up. And when I went back a couple of times recently, to get an award and all that. And so we all gave speeches about how different it is now, and kids now should remember how it was for us, but not in a snotty kind of way. That wouldn't it be great if we could just get that back again?
Yeah. Boy, entropy. You can't get the toothpaste back in the tube, man, once it's out.
Yeah, but
no,
I think about that a lot.
For.
We try to eat mostly organic and grow a few vegetables. We don't have animals anymore, but over the years, I had a llama.
Yeah. You had a farm in Petaluma, man. Didn't you guys have a little dairy?
No, actually, it was down the street from where you were talking about on Pengrove. It was in Pengrove.
Oh, you're in Pengrove.
Around the corner from the Twin Oaks.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Gorgeous, man. Such a special
7 acres
spot.
and lots of land and, the old chicken barns.
Yeah.
And so, I had a bunch of chickens and a bunch of goats. And actually, my wife at the time really got into the goats, and we had a grade A barn built, actually.
Yeah.
And that was a song on that album, grade A barn.
Didn't you sell goat milk?
We did.
Or
We
something?
sold legal goat milk.
Yeah.
And we packaged it and all that.
That's cool.
Legal. We never got a write-up that was bad, and kept it good.
Nice.
And had some sheep and this, that, and the other.
Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer because we got stuff to do. We're going to record Coffee in the Morning with Norm.
Coffee in the Morning with Norm.
And we've got
my YouTube channel, Norman Greenbaum Music.
Indeed. SpiritInTheSky.com.
SpiritInTheSky.com, where I have strings and CDs and things that are still available. And if you would like to reach me, I try to answer a few here and there. And you can by going to SpiritInTheSky.com, and you'll see Contact Norman. And if you don't swear at me, I won't swear back.
Fair deal. Yeah. Well, thanks, man, for taking the time to sit with me and share some of your story. There's a lot more to it, and hopefully many more years to come of you experiencing the world and sharing it with people.
Yeah, when you do interviews, it just kind of comes out.
Yeah.
But there's always a whole bunch that's missing.
Always.
And
Always.
But then it becomes maybe too long. I don't know.
It's never too long for me, but I like to think of the listener, and I always make them little bite size, leave them wanting more. Isn't that what P.T. Barnum used to say?
Yeah. Well, we left out a couple good ones, but
yeah. Well, we'll do it again.
Like we had sheep that were imported from New Zealand, and they were called Cormos.
Cormos?
Cormo.
Okay.
And so I had a name of the ram, of course. So being me, I named him Perry Cormo.
I like that.
I've kept
That's perfect.
I've kept that sense of humor.
Yes, you have.
I kind of like that about myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would encourage anybody who wants to hear more about what you're doing in your life. That's one of the great things that you do on your show, is that you listen to the tunes that you wrote, you talk about the inspiration behind them, and you and Benita tell stories. So you'll get plenty more of Norman. If you go
we're developing that, and you are our current producer.
Thrilled to be.
And which we are very happy about. And again, come and see me sometime.
Indeed. All right, thanks, Norman.